the question is all about as to what action the government of Sri Lanka has taken to prevent the spreading of COVID-19 in Sri Lanka. Yes, of course, it was initially initiated by His Excellency the President and the Prime Minister established a task force in January on the 26th of January to fight against COVID-19. With that, we initially started off with 33 students of Sri Lankan students brought from Wuhan, China, back to Sri Lanka to quarantine. So that was the first time that we heard of this name and quarantine. The Sri Lankan Army was given the task of establishing a quarantine center in hill capitals, Dietala, one of the Sri Lankan military bases where you find a lot of training is happening. So Sri Lankan Army within about 72 hours managed to put up a full-fledged quarantine center with all the facilities for these students, isolated rooms to each and every one, and we managed to send them off in 14 days back to join with their families without any COVID-19 as a suspected case. Thereafter, with the situation escalating around the world, and Sri Lankan government still continued, His Excellency the President continued to have the meetings of the task force and was planning as to what action should be taken to eradicate, or if COVID, any patients comes in Sri Lanka, as to what action should be taken. With that, the government of Sri Lanka on the 7th of March announced that anyone who is coming from Iran, Italy, or from Korea will be quarantined, either locals or the foreigners, and after 3 days lapse, the government established that process where we got a lot of Sri Lankans coming, and we started off with 2 quarantine centers established by the Sri Lankan Army, and thereafter, in a short period of time, within a month's period, the quarantine centers went up to 50 quarantine centers, and we have managed to quarantine more than 3,650 odd, including 31 foreigners who came from 16 different nationalities. So this is how we did the quarantine system, but on the way, halfway, President established a National Operations Center for COVID-19, and I was appointed as the head of this COVID-19 Operations Center. So the President's strategy to avoid spreading in this country and to eradicate COVID from Sri Lanka was that concentrating mainly on 3 areas, that is to containment, where we should try to contain by establishing quarantine centers so that whoever who came from abroad with even the virus will be there. And the second thing was about preventing of the spreading, minimizing the spreading. That is especially when we contained in quarantine centers, we did not have anyone going out. No spread was 0, but the community, we suddenly found that tour guide, that was the first case, who came and associated with a foreign tourist group, got COVID-19, and then we had a very solid plan. So we had 3 areas, as I mentioned, to containment, spreading, and then the government was keen to see that we minimize the deaths who get confirmed from corona. So as far as the corona COVID rehabilitation center or the COVID centers, we found that not a single case reported by spreading from one to another. All those who came with the COVID-19, when they came to Sri Lanka, there were 36 of such people. They only got COVID-19 while being there. Other than that, no one else actually got COVID-19 while staying in the center. In the meantime, as I mentioned, within the society we got a few cases. The government we had a very solid plan of tracing those who have associated with these people. So anyone who got positive for COVID-19 was initially, we went into details as to whom they have associated during the last from yesterday to another 14 days time. We used all types of scientifically methods and also electronically and physical methods to find out who are the people whom they have associated. That was mainly done by with the Sri Lankan army, the health authorities and the intelligence services of this country. So the first trace, as far as the first person who got, we found that he had 64 contacts with him. So we went up to all these 64 contacts and we informed that either directly or second or third party that one of his friends had got COVID, and we wanted them to be self-quarantined in their houses, or house quarantine or self-quarantine in their houses. So just to mention that we had a very solid system from that day onwards up to now. Anyone getting positive from COVID-19, we were right behind them. We were tracking all their records to ensure that anyone whom they have associated, we locate them. We started off quarantining them in their houses as self or house quarantine. But later on, we found that certain segment of the society who lives in a very small space in the same house, where you find a lot of people are living in these houses. Therefore, we found that it is not easy, not practical for them to be quarantined, self-quarantined when you are in a very small space with large numbers. So therefore, His Excellency the President decided and informed us to do something like root ball from a tree, that we have taken all those contacts and they were put inside a quarantine center. So that is how we did for the last 1 week or little more than 1 week, and that is the reason so far this week we have not been found anyone coming from the society, or isolated cases are coming from society. All whom we have taken by suspecting that they will get COVID-19, they got COVID-19 while they are in the centers. So that is how the story is about. We can be proud that we have managed so far well, but we believe that the coming week or so will be very crucial. If we manage well, then we will be able to eradicate or minimize the spreading of COVID in Sri Lanka, plus we will be able to eradicate COVID-19 soon. Yeah, to contain the spread, of course, we have done all, as I just mentioned at the first question. To prevent the spread, we have to identify those who have got COVID-19 initially. That is the most important thing. We identify the guy who got, the person who got COVID-19, and then we have to go for tracing, contact tracing, and to find out exactly how many contacts initially he had, the close contacts that he had. Then the second contacts, maybe this party that this COVID-19 patient, the confirmed guy had met, they would have met another party, which the second or third party will not know that they have met, the first party have met this COVID-19 confirmed case. But we did not stop there. We were doing all possible to identify all of them, and we were tracing on that. Not only that, we went up to the telephone contacts, tracing through telephones, all electronic technologies we used. So therefore, we managed to identify everyone and put them on quarantine, even in house or self-quarantine or in a COVID center. So thereby, we managed to quarantine center, we established and we put them there. Thereby, spread was minimum. So far, we have managed to prevent the spread within the society. And not only them, we actually went up to the details of those who came from abroad, were asked to get registered in the police stations, and we put them on quarantine. So large numbers of quarantine in Sri Lanka. And also when we found that the large number in a village, if a person had associated a large number, then we went on to somewhat similar to a lockdown. We actually called the isolation of towns or the villages. We started off with that. So far we have isolated 4 villages from the rest of the villages to ensure that no exit, no entry to that village or exit from that village, so that this will not spread, will not go to any other towns. Yeah, why not? To collaborate with India and Sri Lanka, the question is all about that. Yeah, I think India also must be practicing the best practices that can give, and also the Sri Lanka being a smaller nation, but we have got very good systems, strategies to eradicate COVID and also to prevent COVID spreading in Sri Lanka. So lots of lessons to be learned. I believe that any country, this is a very model to learn of as to how we have been doing so far. That is why even after a month, from the very first patient, more than a month, we have been managed to hold on to only 7 deaths in this country. Thanks to the health sector, especially for Thrive Services, and Thrive Services have done a wonderful job, including the intelligence. They all got together with the government, with the president, the prime minister, so we have managed to curtail as of now. Yeah, you're asking about the question in regard to the community transmission. Yes, we have managed to prevent the community transmission as of now. We are still on to certain circles. All these cases so far that we have found, something like 220, little more than that, we have identified each and everyone is connected to some segment or to a group of people. So it has not gone from there. It is clusters. All those are clusters. Only 3 or 4 individuals we have found out of this 200 odd got confirmed out of the clusters. So all of them are in a cluster. Even some individuals we found that individuals, later we found that later when cases confirmed, it is from a cluster that they have got COVID-19. So therefore, yes, it can be collaborated. Anyway, good practices can be always be collaborated. What is the country, which country is not, does not mean anything. Yeah, I mean, it's very good that if we can afford to, we would like to give the best practices that we have followed for any country. And I'm sure that if these practices have been done in any country, we'll be able to prevent the spreading or to eradicate COVID as soon as possible. For as far as the economic status, to ensure that the economies are going, His Excellency the President, Prime Minister, and the government of Sri Lanka doing the best. This is not only epidemic to one particular country. It is not such. It is the entire world is affected on this, not only one country. So it will be, its reflex will have to all the countries. So the countries who comes out as soon as possible from eradicating COVID will be able to run. Others will have a little bit of drawback. I think the government of Sri Lanka has solid plans as to how we run the economy while fighting with COVID, and I'm sure that we will be successful.